Hello everybody, welcome to our market report. Today we're Wednesday, May 9th. My name is Christian Charlo. So folks, today I'm going to talk to you about some stocks in the gold sector that are actually oversold. First of all, just to remind you, what is an oversold situation? Well, an oversold situation is, for example, what we have here on November. We see here with this bar here. So this is an oversold situation when you see that the stochastics was totally oversold. So at this price, people saw the gold sector as a bargain. And you see, ever since we left the oversold situation, when you see that the yellow line and the red line were starting to head up, well, then we had a pullback here. So finally, at this price here, that's the overbought situation whenever investors see the gold sector as too overpriced and they're starting to take some profits, and then we have a phase of correction. So that's what happened around this area. So right now, on May 9th, the gold sector is officially oversold, as we see here with the stochastic. So it is an oversold situation, but also I just want to bring to your attention the moving average, a 20 moving average. Well then, technically speaking, every time we go further than this moving average, we have always seen a pullback. For example, let's take a look at this. You see, if I take this bar here on this area, so we were totally away from the moving average of 20, and then we had a pullback the days after. Another example is around this area here. We were further away from the moving average 20, and then we had a pullback. So it's the same thing that happens here. We're further away from the moving average 20, and now we are having a pullback. But also, there are some signs that are showing us that eventually this rebound that we have seen in the gold sector could last. First of all, the US dollar, because you know the US dollar is negatively correlated to the resources. So whenever the US dollar goes up, well then the resources goes down. Actually, when we look at the US dollar, we see that it is testing that important resistance. So at this price here, the US dollar has a lot of problems to be able to get higher. It did it here, it stopped. It did it here, it stopped. So this resistance is really tough for the US dollar to cross. And also, if we look at the stochastics, we see that we have an overbought situation. So which means that at this price, investors are starting to see the US dollar overpriced, and eventually we could expect either a correction phase or a stabilization phase around this area, around this resistance here. So those are some indicators that could indicate us that maybe the rebound that we have seen on the gold sector could last. So I'm going to show you today some prospects, some stocks that are actually totally oversold, and that could be that are actually good entry point. But for example, B2 Gold, technically speaking, yes, it is actually oversold. The stock is going up. So if you want to get in, there's no problem. But you know, the ideal entry point for B2 Gold will be whenever the stock will reverse its downward trend. Because if you get in there, there's no problem. But you know, that downward trend here could just jeopardize your gain potential. Because it could just maybe, let's say tomorrow, the markets just continue to go down. Well, then we will just retake the downward trend. So it is important that if you get in now on B2 Gold, be ready to put your stop loss whenever the stock goes lower than that support, so at around 297. Another one is Goldcorp. It is actually oversold, as you see here with the stochastics, but if you get in on Goldcorp now, be ready to put your stop loss whenever you see the stock goes lower than that lowest point of the day, so which is around 3409. But the ideal entry point for Goldcorp will be whenever the stock reverses its downward trend. So ideally speaking, we could get in at 36, 37. But there's no problem if you get in now, as long as you put your stop loss at about 34 bucks. Same thing for Barrick Gold, actually oversold. Same thing for Dundee Precious Metals, it is oversold, but it is not yet reversing its downward trend. But you have to put your stop loss below 632 for Dundee Precious Metals. So folks, this is a list of all the stocks which are actually oversold. Most of them are just making a rebound within the downward trend. So yes, you could get in, but one thing you have to put in mind, put your stop loss on those stocks if ever the rebound that we have seen in the market does not maintain itself and most of the stocks retake their downward trend. At least you'll be able, of course, to not lose too much if the rebound doesn't really take place. But technically speaking, when you look at the situation of the US dollar, when we look at the situation of the gold sector, the pullback could just last. So you could get in now, but be ready to take some profits whenever you see the stock reverse their downward trend. So that was Christian Charlo from DecisionPlus.com. See you next week for our market report. Don't forget to always also follow us on our Facebook page, facebook.com/DecisionPlus. See you next week, folks. To learn more about us, go to decisionplus.com on the section free trial to try marketguru.tv.